G'day, guys, and welcome to the Centre Bounce for my round three review. Stay tuned. Yes, I'm a very happy Bombers supporter. Was at the game on Thursday night. We're finally on the board. A massive bounce back from that atrocious display against the Crows. Poor Adelaide, mate, they suck. Holy crap, poor Adelaide suck. This is not a testament of how good Essendon is. It's a testament of how much poor Adelaide sucks. And to be frank, we just wanted it more, and I'm so glad we did. Unfortunately, I was starting to feel under the weather, but I'd already bought tickets, already organized with my mate to go. And so we went, and yeah, it just was not a good idea. Yes, I was very happy on the night, but I subsequently got down really sick, and it's been quite a bad weekend. Not at work today. Still, as you can tell by my voice, not exactly right, but I think, come end of the day, she'll be right. She'll be right. Quadril cold and flu, all that jazz. So, yes, very happy Essendon supporter on the weekend. The Supercoach scoring, not quite as awe-inspiring or pleasing. I only scored the 1892 this week due to one major factor, which really, especially from one particular Western Bulldogs player who unfortunately was not on the field. And it became a week almost of, do you have Davidson on field or do you not have Davidson on field? That became the big difference. Yes, I had Hall, and Pal Pepper was looking good up until halftime before copping a knock and to do the HIA assessment, but just only scored. It was like he was on 40 points at halftime, and then only ended up with 8 in the end. So for the second half, so that was not very good. And this is how the team was last week. If I can show the history of the trades, I ended up boosting again last week as well, just trying to be aggressive in getting in some really good players. So unfortunately, Will Ashcroft was traded out because I needed to get Lindsay in. Lindsay was really important and on the bubble and playing a good role for his team. So Lindsay had to come in at the expense of one of my midfielders. And up until this point, Ashcroft was the most dispensable of them all. Then he was also playing against the Cats in very wet conditions. And I just thought they'd be playing surge football, kicking the ball off the ground. Didn't think that this guy would all of a sudden be gifted all of the CBAs and then shine in them. So, it's a long season and sometimes you do have to persist a little bit. So, yeah, Will Ashcroft unfortunately was a bad trade out for me to get Lindsay in, who unfortunately ended up on a 9. Everyone obviously would have done that as well in terms of getting Lindsay, and it hurts. But he's only going to miss the 1 week. He'll be back against the Bombers, and for that reason, I think I'm just going to hold him, similar to how I held Elijah Sardis. I think both of these two young men come back into their respective teams and they play very good roles. I'm very confident that Sardis comes back into the side because he is part of our future. He has excellent talents. He is a point of difference for us in our midfield. And you just asked when Brad Scott was asked in the press conference after the win about Dylan Shield and the role he's going to play moving forward and whether he's going to stay in the midfield. He immediately went, "We want Elijah Sardis in there," basically. So, yeah, I'm going to hold Lindsay. I'm going to hold Sardis. And in the back line, I just knew Short was a fraud. He lost all the kick-ins, and it was looking really bad up until halftime against the Saints. But at the same time, I'm like, this is Jaden Short, who is the master of the second half fade out. And he didn't even score 90. He was outscored by Trainer. So I'm quite happy that I traded out Short to get in Clark, who appears to be, for him to ton up in that game where he was hardly used at all and he turned up. It's a really good look. He's got the best buy and I think he's going to be potentially a top 6 defender. So Short went, and I actually ended up trading Stewart as well because yes, he was named, and when I traded him out, he still had the green tick that he was going to play, but I know that Supercoach terrorist Chris Scott. You can't trust him as far as you can throw him. And I say this all the time. You simply cannot trust that man. And I knew. I just knew this guy's a liar. This guy is, and they get it, and they do it all the time at the Cats. And I just knew it was going to happen. So I traded out Stewart to get Whitfield in, who I anticipate to be a top three defender as well. So I am not disappointed with these trades at all. Yes, it's unfortunate that Ashcroft popped off, but hindsight is 2020, I guess, and I don't think there was a way anyone could have possibly anticipated that he was going to go as big as he did with all of those centre bounces as he did. So Sorka with a 135 was wonderful. Whitfield with a 109. Still really happy to have Whitfield. He's pretty lowly owned. Not too many people going to be looking to get him in either. So really happy to have Whitfield in my side. Shazel, I really hope his role persists that he got in the last quarter where he was moved to the back line. I really hope that role persists. It just feels like he's being killed by Simpkin and Powell, all these other gun mids that they've got. And he's the one who's unfortunately been shafted because he can play forward. So I really hope that role persists where he's playing in the back half in the defensive 50. I'm sorry for hearing some yelling in the house. My grandma, unfortunately, is poor of hearing, and my dad is yelling to her so she can hear him. So apologies if you could hear that. It was quite distracting for me. But yeah, Shea's sort of stuck holding him at the moment. Clark, the new addition, Roberts will be back this week. Trainer with a 90 and Reed with an 88. O'Connell, unfortunately, copped the concussion. It's just, I seem to be getting all of the players that go down with injury, unfortunately. Stewart, Connell, Lindsay, it's just Sardis. I think a lot of people have Sardis, though. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and complain. Powell Pepper should have had a much better score, but then he got injured as well. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and complain. Luck turns, and you just got to be ready to take opportunities where they arise. And so your trainer and Reed, both of them did very well for us this week. I'm happy that I had the emergency on Reed and not O'Connell, and happy to have Field Trainer over O'Connell. They were playing in the same game. That would have been disastrous, even more disastrous than if I had fielded Liam over Trainer. So well done to these boys. Very happy with the back line now with these 5 deep. And I do consider Roberts as a potential keeper as well. And then I can finish my D6 spot with Callum Mills in a couple of weeks' time. So really happy with that. And then I can just sort of, and he will be a relatively cheap upgrade as Trainer and Reed continue to tick away. Now that they've both scored this great score this week, their money will just continue to tick away, and it will be really good to then potentially finish my backline with Mills. And then I can just invest all of my attention and all of my cash generation moving forward into the midfield. And the cash generation this week looks pretty disastrous because of the Levi 36. Plus, I think he just has to go. Even though he's a good player, it's just not translating into Supercoach scoring. Lindsay, obviously now with a 9, that hurts his price rising. Never as a sub, came on the last quarter, scored a 20. That is obviously going to hurt his price projections as well. Campanelli was dropped. So look, it's quite devastating outside of Nod, who is an absolute legend, and well done to everybody who owns him, which should be everybody. Let's be real. So, but I have faith that these are good players who will bounce back. Like Levi, I think should score well again this week, playing against Richmond. Lindsay will be back in a week's time. Sardis will be back in a week's time. And I think they both are so good that they will score well and they'll re-kickstart their cash generation. Never 20 points in a quarter. Why Chris had him as sub to begin with is a joke. He shouldn't be sub anymore, hopefully. And if he plays a full game, I still think that he can continue to make money for us. And Campo being dropped is a little unfortunate. Hopefully he gets called back, but we'll see. I don't know about that. Voss's career is on the line. I think it's a matter of when, not if, in terms of his sacking. So when you're in that position, do you play the kids? I don't think so. Gorn with an 88. I faded him 1 year too early. I should have started him last year and faded him this year. But again, hindsight is 2020. Tom DeConning, very good with a 133. We took that score. He just lost so many points to scaling. It was ridiculous. He was over 140. Still took the 133 and really happy about that. You don't fade a 133 because, a lot of people ended up going with McRae as the captain and he only scored a 120. So going with TDK is definitely a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. We'll just say that. Rankin with a 119. And what more can you say? The dude's a jet. The horny one, he was shit. He was so shit. And he shat his pants multiple times on the weekend as well. It wasn't even a weeknight. It wasn't weekend. It was a weeknight, actually, on Thursday. He was terrible. Terrible. Jumping at shadows, dropping easy marks, going to ground. He giving away free kicks. He was ass. And he still scored 82. He was ass and he still scored 82. It was looking disastrous at 3/4 time. Let's be real. I think he had a 50-point quarter. So, and he missed a crucial shot on goal at the end, which if he kicked that, I reckon this would have been over 100, despite only playing basically one quarter. So, of good football. So, I'm actually going to keep the horny one. Plus, it's a forward line where there aren't too many players that necessarily want to field, and he has likelihood still of being a top 6. I think he just needs Butters to come back into the team, and then hopefully he's got more support in there. McRae's back with a 120 is excellent. Daniel, beautiful. Pepper spoke about. Max Hall, really happy to have him on field with an 85 over a stone, but doesn't take away the pain of knowing that I missed out on 44 points, which would have pushed me over 1900. And I think you had to score over 1900 to be relatively par. And the rookie roulette, unfortunately, there killed me. And Hendo with a 43. He's a 99k rookie. I'm not really expecting the world from him. Now, the team is in an interesting position. Is it in a good position? Kind of. Why is it in a kind of a good position? Because I don't think you can necessarily rely on Reed and Trainer every single week to be giving you that type of score. Pretty sure St Kilda missed a lot of opportunity in front of the big sticks on the weekend. If I go to the matches, where was it? St Kilda versus Richmond. Pretty sure St Kilda, 20 goals, 15. There was a lot of supply and there was a lot of behinds, and I'm pretty sure he even took a couple of kick-ins Trainer on the weekend. So I'm not entirely sure if you can rely on him to give you 90s every week. He did look really good as well. But the St Kilda forward line is just not that great, to be fair. They won through supply more than quality, I think. Max Hall certainly played a really good role in that and just making really smart, good decisions, hitting up lead up targets, and I think he has to keep his spot in the side. The mature age player, he's doing a world of good for them, to be honest. Like, he's doing a lot of good for them. Good structure, makes good decisions. He can also hit the scoreboard himself. So really pleased with Maxi Hall there. Reed obviously has the bye this week, and he certainly was a beneficiary this time with increased pressure up the ground by our mids and our half forwards. If the ball is going to be coming into our back line similar to the same way that it did against Adelaide, yes, he's going to be caught out. Same with everybody else. But you just saw the difference, what happens when we played with intensity up the ground. Reed and Pryor both started to play a lot better. Reed is a gun. He's only played like 11 games. He's still a baby, despite his age. He just, his body has continuously let him down. The more he plays through games and the more he's supported up the ground with better team defense, the better he will score. I just am looking forward to not having to field either of these guys at D6 in the future. I can't wait to get Callum Mills in. So that's fine. my team's in so the team's in a decent position because it only has one rookie on the field in the back line. It's also in a decent position because I think the 5 I've got here are all really good. I've got 2 rucks as opposed to trying to, work my butt off trying to fix up a Flynn at R2, for example. I think all of these rookies, Nod, Levi, Lindsay, Sardis, Never, I think they all still have plenty of money left to make for us. So I'm pretty happy with those guys as well. Happy with Hall. Pal Pepper still has a negative 13 break even. So he could make plenty more money too. Have Davidson, obviously. Hopefully Stone plays another game. He's still got a break even of -4. So I think the team is in an okay position, but we are missing vital players that I think are going to hold us back coming out of the best 18 rounds. So I think Rosie was one. Now, you might be saying this might be a bit crazy to trade him out, but I do want to trade Rosie out because in my opinion, he was never going to be, he's not top 6. He's not a top 6 midfielder. And I had him simply to take advantage of the early fixture and being without Butters because he's better without Butters in the side. But unfortunately, he scored a 64 on the weekend and he just looked completely disinterested. And then he's up against St. Kilda this week, who saw him firsthand in the preseason absolutely torch them. Windhager is going to go straight to Rosie. And then Butters will come back. And again, Butters takes away from the stealing of Rosie. So look, I'm just going to trade him out now. Whilst he's managed a little smidge of cash, I'm going to trade him out now. I'm going to trade Foss out now as well. I gave him the extra rig because of the low break even, but it's clear. He's a good player, but it just doesn't translate to Supercoach scoring. So he's going to go as well for me. So those are the 2 guys that I think are definitely out. And then becomes a question of whether or not Lucas comes back in. Now, like I said, he was dropped, and I think unfairly so to begin with. He was dropped unfairly so. I thought he played his role well on the wing. Was he a star? No. He's a rookie. I don't know what you can expect of rookies necessarily to be a star on the wing. Like, you just need them to play their role, and I think he was doing that. So he got dropped without really any injury. So he's been booted out of the side. And now Carlton really are against the wall. And the knives are really being sharpened for Voss. Does Voss play the kids? Does a coach under pressure play kids? No. They want to play experienced leaders that are known commodities so that they can have a better chance of performing better on the day and therefore save their job. You don't go into development mode when your career is on the line. So I'm not sure if Campo actually comes back into the side, which is a little bit unfortunate. So it gives us a bit of money to work with, as you can see, 939. Now, there's someone in the forward line that we are certainly missing, and we were bailed out this week because of poor disposal efficiency. And that, all right, I have to actually type in his name then, is Baz. So Bailey Smith comes in, he's got an 81, going at 29% disposal efficiency. How can anyone go at that low of a disposal efficiency? My grandma probably could do better than that. He still scored an 81. So I think Baz, and then he's got Melbourne this week. So I just think Baz. If I don't own him, he's going to torch me to a crisp. He's going to kill me, absolutely destroy me. So I'm going to go with him. I want Davidson to be on field, and he'll probably be on the field at the expense of Pal Pepper, I think. What I'm also going to do could even just be as into the midfield, perhaps. But there is another player that I really want to get into my forward line. Someone who seems to have a really good role and he played that role. Sorry, as you can see, I'm still a bit foggy because of my sickness there. But there's someone that I also who I want to play in the forward line. He plays for Gold Coast. For some reason, he's not popping up, and his name is Bailey Humphrey. I want him in the team because he has a ridiculously low break even of -55. Now, he's played in 2 demolitions, okay? And he's got 111, 104. Do I think he's going to do that every week? No. I don't think he's gonna go 111, 104 because I don't think the Gold Coast Suns are gonna be winning by 10 plus goals every week. They seem to be a good side, but what he's doing is he played and got about 30% of CBAs this weekend with Flanders in the side, which is really impressive. And I'm not entirely sure they're going to want Flanders to be playing around the ball so much. I think it's clearly going to be I think it's going to be clearly Noah Anderson and Matt Rowell as the top 2 dogs in the midfield. There could be weeks where it's going to be maybe Bailey Humphrey as the third or Tuke Miller as the third. But Tuke Miller showed that he can be really dangerous in the forward line as well. So I think that Bailey Humphrey will, if he's not the third, then he could be the fourth in the midfield mix. He's only 270k, and he can play that high half forward role because he's a real burst type player, and he's a go-getter. And he just thrives in those contested situations, and he loves to tackle as well. So I just think with the fixture that they've got to come as well, Adelaide at home, they play much better at home than they do away. Then he's got North and Richmond. Then he plays Sydney at home, which is really important as well. They play their best at home. So let's just say he scores 80 at home against the Crom. He doesn't necessarily go massive. Let's say he goes 80. And then in Gather Round at Barossa Park against North, say he goes 90. Against Richmond, say he goes 90 again. And then say he goes 80 against the Swans at home. Project. After those 4, he's got to 397k. He's made, say, 400 basically. He's made 130k in 4 weeks with good scoring, which could be potentially top 6. And if it's not top 6 scoring, then he makes us a lot of money and we trade him out to someone who is a top 6. So I do like Bailey Humphrey in the side. So I do want Bailey Humphrey there as well. And that leaves me with 279k. Now, it could potentially be Moraes as a player that I want there, but it also could be someone who I had floated in the preseason as well, in my preseason team, in Ryan Maric. Yes, he has gone up in price. He's had 1 price rise, scoring the 123. But you got to look at the way he played on the weekend. Yes, he was the sub to begin with in the first game, but he scored a 72 against Brisbane and a 123 against Freo in 4 games. And of particular interest is the fact that he took 9 kick-ins against Fremantle. Is he going to be Mr. Kick-in guy all the time? Well, he's going to have a big boost now because there is the groin injury now to McGovern. So McGovern won't be out there on the field to potentially take those kick-ins. The important thing to note, though, is that Ryan Maric was scoring big when he was scoring big when McGovern was on the field. Why? Because McGovern was playing accountable defending, and Maric lost all of his point scoring when McGovern went down. So clearly they want to use Maric as a distributor of halfback. And when he looked really good in it. He had good run, nice kicking out of defence. But then when McGovern went down, that dried up. So the question then becomes, do West Coast bring in another key defender to come back in, or do they play Oscar Allen behind the ball? If they do that, then it means that they're going to persist with Maric being the distributor of halfback. And if he does that, then that role is gold. And that role certainly is worth even this elevated price tag of 265. As long as that role persists, then he's going to be scoring potentially around 100 points a game. Will Fremantle miss so many times if I go back to the matches? I mean, Freo missed so many gettable shots on the weekend. Like, geez, what will they score? 16 behinds. Will they have 16 behinds kicked to them all the time? Well, they're a bottom 4 to bottom 6 side, so potentially they could give up a lot of scores. Yes, and it means that he will be getting a lot of kickings. So it's a bit of a risk. It's a bit of a gamble, but with the way my team is at the moment, I think I do need to gamble a little bit. I think I have to go all guns blazing to try and catch up, because I am, yes, there are some unfortunate circumstances where I've had some poor scores on the field, like, Tom Stewart last week and Lindsay this week and missing out on Davidson. Like, I've had some things go against me. Gorn obviously not starting as well as he did, paying up a lot for him and not having him capitalize on some of those easier matchups. Hopefully this week he's playing against SDK. So I'm going to actually go with the vice captain on him. And then Brisbane against Richmond, I'm going to chuck the captaincy on Zorko. But I do want Davidson on field. And Lindsay's going to be out. He'll be back next week. Same thing with Sardis. But Sardis can become the loop. And I can loop between Nevitt. Oh, I feel like Nevitt's less likely to be sub now, because surely Chris saw how good Nevitt was in the fourth quarter. 20 points in a quarter. He shouldn't have been sub to begin with. So hopefully Nevitt isn't the sub and he can play a full game. I can then loop between Henderson and Hall. If Henderson scores well, then we'll keep Henderson score. If he doesn't, then we'll sub Hall on for Sardis. And this becomes what the team looks like. Maybe having Maric as the flex might make it look a bit more appealing or something. But yeah, as you can see, I haven't gone for any of those rookies. Like Moraes, who's a winger, potentially could be one that we get in, or Bice. I'm just unsure about Bice's job security personally. Butters comes back in. Butters is a midfielder. Means they're going to have to kick a midfielder out. Could it be Moraes? Look, in my mind, I'm probably thinking that it's not going to be Moraes who gets dropped, but he's a winger. And I think we're going to have downgrade targets in the midfield moving forward, like Sardal Howler, for example. But none of these guys I really want to kick out yet. Like, I don't want to kick out Levi or Sardis or Nevitt or Nod or Lindsay or Hall or Henderson. Like, I don't want to kick out any of these guys to get Moraes in. And like, I could flick maybe O'Connell to Bice, but it makes me no money, basically. And I don't think that little minuscule of a trade is worthy of a boost. Whereas if Maric plays in this role and continues in this role for the rest of the year as a distributor of halfback, there is a world where he could end up potentially being a keeper if that role persists. Now, obviously, this is not fairyland, but there is a possibility. If he maintains that role, then why would you trade him out? Because that role is gold for Supercoach scoring. Humphrey playing as a third banana for a Gold Coast side, which looks really improved this year. He could potentially also, there is a world where he could also potentially be a keeper, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Do I think he will be? No. I'm more likely leaning that both of these guys will not be keepers this year. but they certainly have shown that they have scoring power. And with scoring power comes money generation as well. So I just don't have the rookies that I necessarily really want to kick out at this point in time that have made enough money to downgrade. I'm just going to look to try and buff up as much of my scoring on field as possible and just trust that the rookies that I already have will continue to make money. Like Pal Pepper, mate, he was doing well to halftime before he got that knock. He won't be the sub. He was in the leadership group. He can potentially continue to tick away for me on the bench. Stone is one that could go, yes. He's got the flaky job security. He might only play a couple more games for me, but there'll certainly be someone that I can then downgrade to. And I've got Hall in the midfield, and I can drop him to a midfield rook that pops up. And then we're looking to get Mills in a few weeks' time to have him be at D6. The midfield is looking very, very light at this point, but the idea is that with all of the lines, with my other lines basically sorted for now, for the foreseeable future, I can just aim to get the midfielders that are at the juicy price points. I can just aim to get the midfielders as they fall and nail those ones. So this is what the team looks like at the moment. It probably looks very different to a lot of other people's teams. And, am I feeling bummed out about this start to the season? I've still to this point haven't had a season where my starting team has been really good, hit the ground running and flying. No, not really, to be honest. It's just a game. I decided that I was going to take that fun mentality into it. And, you know, playing with that fun, free mentality, I guess, is what's allowing me to play this high risk, high reward type of thing. And if it doesn't work out, then so be it. It doesn't work out. We just take the lesson and move on. Because not the worst team in the world, obviously not the best team in the world, but it's not the worst in the world either. And I still think that I've got most of the really good rookies, and I'm just looking to really buff up my scoring as much as possible. I've only got 1 plus 4 is 5, and Davidson 6. So I'm only fielding 6 rookies on the field at this point, which hopefully means that coming out of the best 18 means that I will be in a better position, I think, with less rookies on the field, and that the ones I do have, I've managed to hold on to with trust, like Sardis and Lindsay. I think I'm willing to back these guys in to come back and score really well. I wish I did that with Will Ashcroft, but, hindsight is 2020. So let me know, guys, how you guys did in this round. What do you think of my trades? Do you think it's a bit crazy using a third boost only down to 31? It's going to be down to the wire for me this year, absolutely. But when I've had to make so many corrections and change up the structure, went very mid-price heavy in the backline, but that simply just was not the strategy. So we decided to flirt with the mid-prices in the backline, and unfortunately that wasn't correct. SDK, not the right option. Perryman, not the right option. Shaw, not the right option. So trying to go with those guys and flirting with was fraught with danger. Unfortunately, almost all of them failed. So we've had to restructure. Unfortunately, the restructuring had to come during the course of the season. And of course, that costs trades to do. So this is what the team currently looks like at the moment. Hopefully from next week, the cash generation looks a lot better. Connell comes back, Lindsay comes back, Sardis comes back, and we get the cash generation ticking over again afresh. So if you like this video, and appreciate me talking through a bad voice and a bit of a cough, please drop us a like, subscribe. Sorry about that. Hit the notification bell, all that jazz. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday for the members and Thursday for the drive home.